After we understand how to calculate the CPI, we would like to introduce the formal definition of CPI, which is a measure of the average of the price paid by consumers for a fixed market basket of consumption goods and services. Here, as we said before, average means, in reality, consumers could buy tens of thousands, if not more, goods and services, right? And so in this definition, the key phrase is a fixed market basket. Let's spend some time talking about what that means. Here, I would like to switch back to the hypothetical example we used before, okay, this table. And we said that only two goods here, right? And we look at 3 years prices and quantities. Now, please pause the video and think about, with these numbers in the table, where exactly we can find it's a fixed market basket. Okay? In other words, from which numbers you can tell that the market basket is fixed. Alright, there are actually two meanings of the fixed market basket. Okay, the first meaning is the goods or services in the basket are fixed. So in this case, we find that Cokes and cheeseburgers, we said that people always purchase these two goods. There's no third one they're going to spend money on, right? So in terms of the types of the goods and services in the market basket, they're always the same. Okay. The second meaning is the quantities of the goods and services in the market basket always the same over time, okay, or across these years. So for example, in this table we find that people purchase 50 Cokes regardless of the years, and they purchase 100 cheeseburgers. Okay, so that's exactly what we mean by fixed market basket. Okay. Again, we do that to make sure the comparison can be made across years. So you don't have to worry about, for example, the CPI change because we include new goods or services, or because people purchase a different amount of goods and services. Okay. In reality, CPI is calculated and reported by BLS, the same government agency who reports unemployment, okay, or the unemployment rate and the number of jobs created. Okay? And for CPI, they report it on the monthly basis. Okay. All right. Here, we would like to put everything together and give you a summary of the steps it will take to calculate the CPI. Okay. The first step is to pick a base year. Okay. As we said back in chapter 10, oftentimes we pick the first year in our sample period as the base year, but it does not have to be that way. So you can pick the very last year as your base year or any year in between. Okay. And then once we get the base year, we can find the cost of the CPI market basket or the cost of living at the base year prices. The next step is to find the cost of living at the current year prices. The third and the final step is to plug in the numbers, okay, into the following mathematical formula. Okay. Again, it's a ratio here. Okay, the cost of living in the current period divided by that in the base period. okay, or base year, and multiply by 100 to get the percentage or the index. Now, on the basis of our understanding of CPI, we can talk about inflation. Okay? Inflation or inflation rate is the percentage change in the price level from one year to the next. In other words, in economics, when we talk about inflation rate, we potentially assume this is going to be the annual rate. Okay? Mathematically, it equals the CPI in the current year minus the CPI in the previous year divided by that in the previous year. Okay, again, multiplied by 100%. The only thing I would like to remind you here is in the denominator, it's going to be CPI in the previous year. So that is a benchmark, not the current year. Okay, sometimes people get confused. So we're comparing to the previous year. Now, with the CPI numbers we already calculated, we can figure out the inflation rate in 2019 in that hypothetical example. So the CPI in 2019 is 170 minus CPI in 2018, which is 140, divided by CPI in 2018, 140. Okay, so eventually we find that the annual inflation rate in 2019 is 21.4%. The economic interpretation here is the price level in 2019 is on average 21.4% higher than that in 2018. Okay. Now, here, after we understand how to calculate the CPI and the inflation, we would like to go back to the opening question. Remember, I asked you to reach out to your grandparents and figure out, in which year, how much they actually spend purchasing their house. Okay, and we would also like to know, if someone offers a price, is that going to be a good deal or bad deal, or it's just, break even. Okay. To be able to do this, you could, find the CPI numbers from the government website, okay, and then plug them into this formula here, okay. Of course, it depends upon which year your grandparents actually purchased the house, right? And so you go back and find that year's CPI, and then you find 2020. You may not get 2020's the whole year CPI, but you can use probably 2019 CPI as an approximation. Okay, and then plug in the number to be able to find that. But there's actually an easier way to do this. You can find something called the inflation calculator on the BIS website, which will help you do all the math here. Okay, so eventually it will tell you, after the inflation adjustment, how much that house your grandparents purchased years back is worth today or this year. Okay. Now, during our virtual meeting, I will show you how to use the inflation calculator. This could be a very useful tool for the rest of your life. Okay, when it comes to the decision, are you going to buy or sell the stocks? Okay, or are you going to buy or sell the house or any other financial assets you hold?